All right, students, this is what you are going to use to make corrections to your original quiz. First of all, you have to do only the problems that you missed. You will actually do the problem on the corrections page that I gave you. For every problem you missed, you need to watch my video and do the problem along with me. All right, here we go. Problem number 1. All right, problem number 1, you've heard me call these reciprocal problems. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite the problem so I have room to actually work on it. So negative 3/5 x equals 18. Okay, I call them reciprocal problems because we're going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of the fraction in front of the x. Now, some of your biggest issues is you don't actually reciprocate that negative. Because there's a negative here, I have to put this negative here. Then I'm going to do the exact same thing to the other side, and again, you got to remember to take your negative. All right, so there we go. We've done the reciprocal on both sides. On the left-hand side, the 5's cancel, the negative 3's cancel, and I get x equals. On the right-hand side, we're going to put the 18 over the 1 because we want to see if we can reduce anything, which we can. And 3 goes into 18 6 times. I'm going to circle that negative so I know it's there. So what do I have left? I have 6 times 5, which is 30. And then I have this negative, so the answer is negative 30. All right, problem number 2. All right, here's problem number 2. X minus negative 20 equals negative 12. We've talked about these before. I told you these double signs are bad. So a minus and negative just makes a plus. So I'm going to rewrite the problem as x plus 20 equals negative 12. Now, if that was plus a negative 20, plus a negative would be a minus, I would have rewritten the problem as x minus 20 equals negative 12. Okay, now I've got one sign, so I'm going to subtract 20 from both sides. And I get x equals, and another problem you guys are having is you're trying to do the integers in your head. Negative 12 minus 20, they're all negative, so I get negative 32. If you're not comfortable doing integers, plug that problem in the calculator. Negative 12 minus 20 is negative 32. All right, problem 3. All right, here's problem 3. 18 equals 6 minus 4x. All right, so the biggest mistake we are making with this problem is we think that minus sign goes with the 6, which it does not. That minus sign actually goes with the 4x. So this 6 is a positive. Okay, I want to get the x by itself. So I've told you before, sometimes I think it's best to circle the negative 4x, and I want to get it by itself. So the opposite of positive 6 is minus 6. I got to do that to both sides. So I get 12 equals, these cancel, and I don't get 4x, I get negative 4x. And some of us, that's our problem. We keep dropping the signs. All right, 12 equals negative 4 times x. So now we're going to divide both sides, again, by negative 4, not 4. We do the same sign when we multiply or divide. This cancels out, and we get x equals 12 divided by negative 4 is negative 3. All right, problem number 4. All right, problem number 4 is very similar to the problem that we just did. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to circle my negative 3y, which means I want to get it by itself. That negative goes with a 3y, so I know the 24 is a positive because it doesn't have a sign next to it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 24 from both sides. This side, everything cancels, 24 minus 24. I have not 3y left, I have negative 3y equals 12 minus 24. That is negative 12. And again, calculators are helpful there. All right, next step, negative 3 times y. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 3. And I get y equals negative 12 divided by negative 3 is positive 4. Okay, problem number 5. Okay, problem number 5. First thing I'm going to do to this problem is I am going to put a 1 in front of that y. And then I'm going to circle the negative 1y, which means that 19 doesn't have a sign in front of it. It's positive. So I'm going to minus 19 from both sides first. This side, everything cancels. 19 minus 19. I don't have 1y left. I have negative 1y equals negative 5 minus 19. They're all negative, so that becomes negative 24. Okay, next step, I'm going to get rid of that negative 1 in front of the y, so it's multiply, so I'm going to divide both sides by the same thing. This cancels, and I get y equals negative 24 divided by negative 1. Two negatives make a positive. So y equals 24. Okay, problem 6. All right, problem number 6. Okay, this one's a little harder. I'm still going to suggest that you circle the negative 2/7 x, so I want to get it by itself. So what's the opposite of negative 6? I'm going to add 6 to both sides. What do I have left? I have negative 2/7 x. Don't forget that negative. Negative 14 plus 6 is negative 8. Now it becomes like problem number 1 originally, which is a reciprocal problem. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 7 over negative 2. Again, don't forget this negative. I'm going to do the same thing over here, 7 over negative 2, and it's multiply. So on this side, the negative 2's canceled, the 7's cancel, and I get x equals. On the right side, I need to put the negative 8 over 1. Now, negative 2 and negative 8, negative 2 goes into negative 8, positive 4 times, so technically those two negatives cancel out. 4 times 7 is 28. Okay, problem 7. All right, problem number 7. All right, this kind of looks like a reciprocal problem, but it's actually easier. So again, I'm going to circle my x over 5, which means I want to get that by itself. So the opposite of minus 4 is I'm going to add 4 to both sides. And I get x over 5 equals negative 12 plus 4 is negative 8. Okay, so this is x divided by 5, so the opposite is multiply. So I'm just going to multiply both sides by the number 5. These 5's cancel, and I'm left with my x that I want. Negative 8 times 5, negative 40. Okay, problem number 8. Okay, problem number 8. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to circle not just the 3x, I'm going to circle the negative, because that negative goes with the 3x. The 26 has nothing in front of it, so that means it's positive. So first thing I'm going to do is get rid of the positive 26 by subtracting 26. Always the opposite there when you add and subtract. Okay, those cancel out, and I'm left with not 3x, but negative 3x, whatever's in the circle. Negative 5 minus 26, they're all negative, so it's negative 31. Okay, negative 3 times x, so that means I'm going to divide both sides by negative 3. All right, and we get x equals, these cancel out, 31 over 3. That does not simplify, which means we're not going to put it in a calculator. So we need to talk about, though, these two negatives. Some of you, your biggest mistake is remembering two negatives make a positive. So my answer is just 31 over 3. All right, problem number 9. All right, problem number 9. Okay, again, I like to circle the variable with the sign, because that means I know I need to mess with that side. I need to get that x by itself. So if I look at this minus 12, I'm going to add 12 to both sides. I want to get rid of what's with the x. So I'm going to add 12 here. Negative 36 plus 12. They're opposite signs, so I subtract and keep the sign of the bigger number. Okay, on the right-hand side, I'm left with not 3x, negative 3x. Okay, now to get the x by itself, I have to divide both sides by negative 3. And I get x equals negative 24 and negative 3. When you divide them, you get positive 8. Okay, problem 10. Okay, problem 10. Okay, these are the ones that I call them big fraction problems. So the first thing we have to do is we got to get rid of this big division sign. So if it's divided by 2, to get rid of it, we're going to multiply both sides by 2. So on the left-hand side, the 2's cancel, and I'm left with whatever's on top. So this becomes negative 4x plus 7 equals negative 5 times 2 is negative 10. Okay, now it's just a normal two-step problem. So I'm going to circle the negative 4x. How do I get rid of positive 7? I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. I'm left with negative 4x equals negative 10 and negative 7. Everything's negative, so that gives me negative 17. I have to divide both sides by negative 4. And again, this is like a problem we just did similarly about 2 minutes ago. Two negatives make a positive. I can't simplify 17 over 4, so my answer is just 17 over 4. Okay, problem. All right, problem number 11. Very similar to the last one. So to get rid of this big division bar, I have to multiply both sides by 3. So this side I get 8 minus 4x. And on the right, negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. Now, we're back to one of the problems where we have trouble knowing what that 8 is, positive or negative. So I'm going to circle the negative 4x, which means that negative goes with the 4x. So the 8 has nothing in front of it, it's positive. So I'm going to minus 8 from both sides. And I get negative 4x equals negative 6 and negative 8 gives me negative 14. Okay, I have to divide both sides by negative 4. All right. So again, two negatives make a positive, but 14 and 4, I can divide both of them by 2, so I have to simplify them. So my answer is 7 over 2. Okay, we're ready for problem 12. All right, problem number 12. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to circle the negative 2/5 x. This 10 is a positive, so I'm going to minus 10 from both sides. So I get negative 2/5 x, because don't forget that negative. Negative 14 and negative 10, when I put all those negatives together, I get negative 24. Okay, now this is back like number 1, it's a reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal. Don't forget the negative again. On this side, the 5's cancel, the negative 2's cancel, and I'm left with x like I want. On the right-hand side, when I put this over 1, so I've got a negative 2 and a negative 24. So I know this can go into negative 24 12 times. So my two negatives ended up canceling out. I have left 12 times 5, which is 60. All right, problem number 13. All right, problem number 13. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to circle negative x over 3. All right, which means this 8 has nothing next to it, so it's positive. I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. Now, this negative, I'm going to put it on the 3. I've talked about that. I like to put the negative on the 3, not on the x. Negative 3 minus 8 is negative 11. So now it says x divided by negative 3. So how do I get rid of divide? I multiply. I multiply by the same thing, negative 3. And I get x equals negative 11 times negative 3, 33. Okay, problem 14. All right, problem 14, we've got the distributive property starting now. So negative 5 times 1x is negative 5x. Okay, one of the most biggest problems you guys are having is that negative goes with the 4. That's a minus or a negative. So when I take negative 5 times negative 4, negative 5 times negative 4, that's positive 20. I do not write down minus positive 20. I just write down negative times a negative is a positive, so positive 20. And then equals negative 8. Okay, I'm going to circle the negative 5x. Opposite positive 20 is minus 20. I'm left with negative 5x equals negative 8 and negative 20, all negatives, so negative 28. Okay, negative 5 times x, so I'm going to divide both sides by negative 5. Okay, on the right-hand side, 28 and 5 don't simplify. And two negatives make a positive. So the answer is 28/5. Okay, 15. Okay, problem 15. We are going to do the distributive property. 3 times negative 2x is negative 6x. 3 times positive 4 is just plus 12. I'm going to circle the negative 6x, which means I want to get that negative 6x by itself. So I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides. And I get negative 6 minus 12 is negative 18. On this side, I just have left what's in the circle, negative 6x. Okay, solve for the x, which means I'm going to divide both sides by negative 6. X is negative 18 divided by negative 6 is just 3. Okay, problem 16. All right, problem 16, here we go. 16, again, we're going to do the distributive property. So we have negative 16 equals negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. Okay, again, this is a negative 2, and this is a negative 3x. So negative times a negative is a positive, so we're just going to put plus 6x. No double signs. All right, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to circle my positive 6x, which means I need to get rid of negative 8. So I need to add 8 to both sides. Negative 16 and 8, they're different signs, so I subtract, keep the sign of the larger number, and I get negative 8 equals 6x. So I'm going to divide both sides by 6. Negative 8 and 6, they don't divide out evenly, but I can take a 2 out, so I get negative 4 over 3 is my answer. No decimals, remember. 7. Okay, problem 17, here we go. Distributive property. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times negative 3, that's a negative 9, equals negative 12. Circle my 3x. I'm going to add 9 to both sides. I get 3x. Negative 12 plus 9, different signs. I subtract, I get negative 3. I'm going to divide both sides by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1, and I have a negative, so my answer is just negative 1. Okay, problem 18. Okay, problem 18. So we have to do the distributive property, but we have a fraction. So I need to take 1/5 times 10x. So I put it over 1. I simplify the 5 and the 10 is twice. 1 times 2 is just 2x. Okay? So now I have to take 1/5 and I have to multiply it times negative 15. So 1/5 times negative 15, I put the 15 over 1. 5 goes into 15 3 times. Don't forget this negative. So I have minus 3, and then equals negative 11. Okay? I'm going to circle my 2x. So minus 3, the opposites add 3. I get 2x equals negative 11 plus 3. Different signs I subtract, keep the sign of the bigger number. Divide by 2. X is equal to negative 4. Okay, 19. All right, 19. Distributive property. This is negative 8x. And then negative 4 times negative 5, positive 20. We don't do a double sign. And then this equals 17. Okay, I'm going to circle the negative 8x, which means I want to get it by itself, because I'm solving for x. So I'm going to subtract 20 from both sides. I get negative 3 equals negative 8x. I'm going to divide both sides by negative 8 because I want to solve for the x. X is 2 negatives, make a positive. I can't reduce, I don't make a decimal. My answer is 3/8. All right, last one, number 20. All right, number 20, distributive property. Negative 2/3 times 9x, and put it over 1. 3 goes into 9 3 times. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6x. Negative 2/3 times a negative 12. Don't forget that negative. 3 goes into 12 4 times. Negative 2 times negative 4 is positive 8. And then equals negative 6. I'm going to circle my x so I know I want to get by itself. So I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. I get negative 14 equals negative 6x. Divide by negative 6 on both sides. X is 2 negatives make a positive, and 14 and 6 divide by 2, so I get an answer of 7/3. Okay, so corrections are done. You need to do the alternate assignment next.